Hello, everyone. Present me from 2000, the year 2025. Hello, how's it going? This episode to the episode 133 is um a re-upload from the blast from the past. So this is basically a rewind upload that basically what has happened is I am re-uploading the podcast for many reasons, and certain reasons I'm doing it because due to transfer issues that never got successfully all the episodes that weren't successfully transferred over from the previous hostings that I've had in the past, like Red Circle or Acast, for example. Um, the episodes weren't successfully transferred, and it didn't successfully transfer the episodes well. So basically, that's what had happened. So that's why I'm giving you guys a nice treat from the pass from the blast, basically. So if you are listening to this now and listening to my older episodes, you'll understand why. And I know the audio in the past around uh, pre-pandemic was actually, I would say, pretty rough, the recordings, but you guys are going to have to kind of forgive me from my past years, only because they weren't the top of notch quality, and also that too, my these were my earlier years of podcasting. So if you are wondering what I could have done better in the past, now you know what basically my past self sounds like. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoy it. And with that said, there will be new episodes coming up in the future. So, no worries. It's not just going to be about retro me. But overall, hopefully you guys understand. So, anyways, let's hit it and roll it and on with the episode. And thanks for listening, and hope you enjoyed this special episode coming out from me. Past me, that is. Hello, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Leon the Gray podcast. This is episode. What episode are we in? Episode 133 of the Leon the Gray podcast. Goodness gracious. I haven't done a podcast in so long. It has been something, and I've been putting it off because a lot of things has come up in mind. But today, as I am recording it early in the morning and getting the release out first thing, 8 a.m. in the morning Eastern Standard Time, which it's going to be pretty soon. And I've missed a lot. My goodness gracious, technology news comes and goes so fast. And I think today we're definitely going to have to get in a talk what I've missed talking about. And I think it is definitely going to be really important to talk some things to. So here are going to be some of the things that we'll want you to know what's going on for last week's, and trying to catch up from last week, and then things I'm going to catch up some from this week moving forward. And as everyone knows, I am not going to be doing any of the beginning ads, which I figured let me just go ahead and leave the ads for next episode. And I figured since while everybody's talking about video games and the fact that everybody is into the consoles and the whole consoles, which is, I think it's pretty interesting to see where consoles are going, moving forward, where they are right now too. I think now with I forgot even how what's this generation, 8th generation, 9th generation consoles. Oh, God bloody knows. I think we're definitely in the 9th generation console. If I could take a quick look, console generation. Let me just take a look And for home consoles, let me see. Okay, we're still in the 8th generation console. So I was actually particularly right. But if you look at it right now, we're definitely going to go ahead and it looks like we're going to just go and jump forward on the 9th generation consoles very, very soon in what everybody thinks. Because quite honestly, and if you guys look at what the trends are as of now, first of all, 8th generation console, and the ones that we've seen in this current 8th generation console, the Wii U, which is pretty much no longer around, which no game manufacturer, no game developers are gonna touch the Wii U, but it's still presented as a 8th generation console, PS4, Xbox One, and the current Nintendo Switch, which came out around 2017. Still very popular to this day, 3 years later, still. And now, with things going with the 9th generation console, PlayStation, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and then the unknown Atari VCS, which this is super unknown. And to tell you the truth, I've actually followed it up somewhat, but I have not been following it up for super long, to be very, very honest. I mean, the last I've heard was it was a Kickstarter, what I understand, but by all means, I was in no means of interest of what's to come about this Atari VCS, and this is actually supposed to be a 2020 console, but for me right now, I don't think it's going to have any relevance. And plus, who the hell has talked about Atari for so long now? I mean, you look at Atari, where have they gone, right? And then for all I can tell you is, I mean, I don't think they're going to have any relevance. And for what I understand is that they say that the Atari VCS is going to be in release in November 27, 2020. And which it says it's going to have the 1.4 MN AMD Raven Ridge 2, which is the CPU that's going to be used. I mean, honestly though, I don't know what the hell that's all about, but I think it's not going to come out to be as popular or possibly a relevant console until after 2020. So again, I think I'm just going to ignore that for the meantime, and I understand there's these enthusiasts that are going to jump into it, but I'm not going to go ahead and wander into it too much, because I'm going to let time tell its story on its own and see where the Atari go from here too. So, and before I get onto jumping into more topic on the console, which I definitely want to go and definitely talk about, especially what's going on in the state of the economy today, because I know I mean, as much as I don't talk about video games, more on the tech side, for me, in my future predictions as a technologist, things where we're trending in the world of technology, I think this is something to look into, and how important this is, especially how people are spending their money. And though I'm sure that money, it's definitely a taboo topic, and I think a lot of people don't like to talk about it. Again, I think it is definitely really important when you're talking about how people are going to spend. And then other things I want to mention as well is, for one, we're going to see rising prices of consoles, and then rising prices of video games for that fact. So for over the 200s, the 2000s, over the year 2000 and the rest of 2010s, we've been spending $60. I think the $60 price tag was introduced around 2005, 2006, and that's when the Xbox 360 came out, and then we started to pay more on prices on video games. And that's when I started to remember, it's like, ooh, $60 for a video game. Gosh, man, how crazy expensive things are going to be. And it's still going to be very expensive, And tell you the truth, I think a lot of the people are still going to look into what is it to come, especially. And I know a lot of people are talking about who is going to win. Is it for the console generation? Is it going to be Sony, or is it going to be a Microsoft winning the console generation? And it's hard to say because people want to look at this as a console war, right? And see who the hell is going to win on the console, or is it going to be Nintendo? Well, I'll tell you this though, I don't think neither are going to win, because as far as I can see is, I think all of them are going to do really, really well. I know both Sony and Microsoft are going to do really well. Now, I think Microsoft are going to be potentially come back stronger. Now, for me, I don't bet my money on Microsoft by all means. Sony, on the other hand, I have some few things I want to say. For one, I have one issue with the new console. For one, as far as I can see, you cannot transfer video games data over from PlayStation 4 over to the PlayStation 5. And I think a lot of gamers want to see games being ported, which for me, I call this as bullshit. And that's right. Because what the hell was that about? I don't understand why Sony had not decided to do that, while Microsoft, on the other hand, decided, wait a minute. Wait. If Microsoft can go ahead and transfer game data from Xbox to PC, vice versa, why couldn't they do that for their consoles, right? I mean, we are going to be spending money on next generation games, and also the good thing about this is that if anyone still has a PS4, and not able to afford the PlayStation 5 for the next coming 9th generation console that's coming up, there are some games that are going to still be supported on PlayStation 4. Not to worry. But I still called it bullshit, because how on earth Sony has not thought about this too? At least Microsoft has gained up to the point that, hey, we can actually start jump your game a little bit, think ahead what's going on. Well, I don't know what the hell is going on with Sony's camp not doing what they're doing. So that's the thing too. And there's something wrong with that too. But for where I can see, I think Nintendo is still going strong. They're not going to go anywhere as right now. And now, as far as the consoles, on the other hand, to me, I say is just that I'm not going to spend on purchasing a console. I'm not going to go and purchase any of the 9th generation consoles. If I have to be honest, right there too. To be not worth the money, I just don't think the money is there to be spending. First of all, I actually put some good money on a PC, and I know a lot of people say it's worth the money on purchasing the console, because the PC gaming just has no momentum. For me, that's a load of bullshit. So why you have to listen to all of that nonsense coming from the crowd? I think there are some people that are going to be willing to spend money on a PC. And if you look at PCs right now, PCs have a huge advantage over consoles, while consoles, on the other hand, they have made some strides and improvements as far as getting your game data transferred, while not all of them are going to be able to do it. Now, I think if I'm not mistaken, Nintendo, you can actually transfer your old data right from the new Switches, which is pretty good. I like what they've done. One thing I will say, I'm someone that likes classic video games. So why haven't Nintendo brought the classic games onto the Switch? So that kind of tells me something about Nintendo. Is like, why haven't they brought that over? If we've seen that on the Wii and the Wii U, I don't understand why Nintendo hasn't introduced like the classic games too. Now they are coming out with interesting titles on the Switch already, which is going to be nice, and it's pretty sweet though. And I know there's going to be long time fans of the Nintendo. People are gonna, of course, obviously still gonna get the Switch for certain reasons, which they are. And I know that these people have already purchased these consoles years ago, since probably the 80s and 90s. So for them, it's like, well, I don't understand why I have to respend all my money on those same classic titles I've gone through with this brand new console. This does not make any sense. I agree. I don't think it makes any sense whatsoever to respend money on classic games, which nobody should. Nobody. And that's the thing about it too, is that while our economy, they say that we are in a recession, not true. We're actually, I think we're going to be right on schedule to a depression at some point. So far, what I've understood, a lot of people said that would have been in a September crash at some point. And so far, hasn't been no September crash, and it's already been past. We're already past the middle of September. We're now coming to late September as of right now. So no crashes of there. But however, the way people are spending nowadays, it's going to be very iffy with so many people, because nobody's thinking about spending extra amount of dollars too. And people say, well, it's worth spending a lot more money to get the best quality and stuff like that. Whoever thinks that, and it's obviously nobody is going to jump into spending more than they have to. I mean, God, what a little crock. I don't understand the mentality. And here's the thing too. I don't feel bad for these developers. These people have made so much money in game development, and all this time they've been making so much money. And I don't feel not a single thing bad for these people. And I'm sure these people are like, well, if those developers are struggling, we've got to make sure that they can make the best out of, make the best and spend more money so that we can give to developers. Who cares? They've been making money anyways. I don't understand that mentality to spend more than we have to. Now, which I understand that there's going to be some titles. Some of the titles are going to be released that not all of them are going to be $70 to $75, right? And some of them are going to be some in low prices, and it's kind of good that it's not going to be all $70, because not everyone from their mothers can afford that kind of money. Let's put it this way, very, very straight. Nobody's going to be spending that kind of money. And for me, this is a person that has come originally from the consoles. I played all of them, of course. I played the Xbox. I played PS2. I played the GameCube back when I was young. And let me not forget the 360, which I remembered when I was a teen. I remember it all. Okay? I just don't see myself to getting onto the consoles or getting back on board back onto the consoles, because it's just not worth it anymore. And now with newer games, you can just go to a place like Steam and you can just go ahead and purchase these games less than you would with your console counterparts. So, and with Steam, you got a marketplace, and you can spend less what you would in a console in comparison to. And plus, you can get your games on, like I mentioned, Steam, GOG, Humble Bundle, whatever, right? To me, I love to see more developers getting on board and not having to charge more than they have to, and it is also ridiculous as well. And I'll tell you the truth, as someone I'm looking into consoles right now, it's definitely a bit uncertain. I will say that too, because the technology changes a lot, and we don't know what or how we're gonna see the console gaming for the long run. I mean, it's gonna be a tricky thing to forecast, and how I'm gonna forecast it too. And to me, and people say that, I remember people say that, the PC gaming is not going to be relevant and console gaming will take over. Not that true. Not that true. I mean, thing is though, you can definitely do a lot more on a PC than you would do on a console. I mean, when people talked about the PlayStation 3 back then, they were comparing this to a computer, right? It was going to be so powerful that you can do web browsing, you can do this, and it'll run something so similar like a PC. Well, not really true at all. It really isn't. It was mostly a game console. You could do things you can do on a console, but not entirely too. But you were limited to some things what you could do on the PlayStation 3 or the Xbox 360. So just to put it straightforward on it too, you're not gonna get that kind of experience on a personal computer. Forget about it, because I know that, and also I built the computer. I've been working on computers for God knows how long, probably like over than a decade, already to understand these things. So that's one of the things I would say is that if you want something in good quality, then by all means, grab yourself a PC, grab yourself some parts, and create it, and stick to the PCs. And I'm sure there's going to be games that may end up releasing for consoles first, but if you become very patient enough, you'll end up going ahead and spend a lot less what you would be spending over with the counterpart. And to me, I look at this as a economic standpoint where you can actually wait on things instead of buying things right off the bat. And there's been a couple talks with me and friends that I've had live on chat streams, and I said I'm just going to wait until the price goes down too. And I'm sure there are people that are going to be spending like no tomorrow, and people want to get the latest and greatest. I don't blame them. If you want to do that, go ahead. I think from the lessons that we've learned from the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360's Ring of Death, it's best to wait, because let's say if you encounter hardware issues, right, and for some reason you've encountered a Red Ring of Death, you can't get your CD to come out or whatever, then you're pretty much screwed. You don't want to do that. And I'd say wait up until things improve and things work out with these hardware manufacturers, if that's the case with these consoles. And I have to say, man, I definitely skipped on the 8th generation consoles bandwagon. I really did. Not because I was against consoles, but because of situations economically that I had to hold up. Basically what has happened. But besides the point, I think it's good to put it this way. If you are conscious enough and wait until things drop, then you don't have to worry about having to get the very first thing. That's what I can tell. Because what I understand with this right here, because I'm not really all about the console generation right as of right now too, and I'm just definitely going to stay away as utterly possible as I can too. And as someone that I've been looking up and following up on, let's say, the Microsoft camp for a little bit, not all that much. And I know a lot of people won't necessarily agree with me on what I'm going to say about the buyout with Bethesda, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree that this was the best purchase with Bethesda. However, I think as someone that is coming from a place of open source, of openness, I think it was not the best buyout. And for me, I don't think it was the best move. And having big corporations like Microsoft buying Bethesda, I think if a company is losing, I think you should let it lose, and instead of having to go through the whole bullshit, right? And to me, if Bethesda wasn't doing well, I say let it burn to the ground. To me, why even buy it out right there too? And look, I'm sure that Bethesda was pretty much happy to take the $7.5 billion in order to continue to survive and in order to work out the kinks. And I'm sure there's a lot of things that are pretty much in question, and which is obvious that that obviously a lot of these Bethesda titles are going to be on 360 and the PC, which is now Microsoft property. And there's other properties that Microsoft has bought, and there's been so many issues that a lot of people have talked about in the open source community that said that has it become very monopolized, stuff like that too. Now, and I've asked this question with people that in the game community that said that was this the right buyout? Was this a good thing too? Now, to me personally, I don't think it was the right buyout. And I'm sure there's people that said that if a big company offered me that kind of money, I would take the money and sell my company. I don't know, because the problem with what you're doing with this, you don't have so much control when a big company like that purchase your company. You know, what say do you have on that too? Really, there is no say, really at all, because you're left not having any say whatsoever. Because once your company is being bought out from a big corporation like Microsoft, you know, let's face it too. And I'm sure that Microsoft isn't going to buy entirely everything, and I'm sure they're not going to end up buying Sony overnight. I mean, first of all, there's no way they're going to do it. But I'm sure Microsoft is willing to open up competition as much as possible. That's far from the truth. And the way we're seeing with Microsoft, I don't trust them 100%. I really don't trust them 100% whatsoever. And to me, as far as I can see, I mean, you've seen Microsoft in the past that has been a big monopoly over the years. And plus, I don't have a huge list on my mind what companies they've bought out, but for me, they've been running very monopolistic, and this is why I like to have more of these titles being brought up to open source and bring it to open source distributions like in Linux. If, for example, I've actually gamed on Ubuntu. I think Ubuntu is wonderful as a OS, and there's tons of great Linux distributions out there, like Mint. I've heard Mint is great. I've never used Mint, but I should start looking into partitioning my PC, have it run half Windows 10, half half Windows 10 and half Linux Mint, which would be great to run. Regardless, I think there should be more options for people that are in these open source OSs, and that's how I see it right there too. Now, I do definitely have an article, which actually, this was surprising to me. In fact, I first heard this over on Eli the Computer Guy, which I pretty much listened to him about here and now, and which pretty much he's actually hasn't talked too much about computers nowadays because he's pretty much expanded his topics on the economy, big tech corporation news, things like that too. Things that are going to be very, very important to the world. And I'm pretty much similar to Eli, which I talk about the current state of situation of the economy, things like that too, which is going to be very, very important. Plus, if you have a failing economy, how our tech jobs are going to survive in a depression, right? Which is very, very important. And so, with Eli, the computer guy, he talks about Lenovo, and I did research on this too, and I looked up ZDNet, and they were talking about this, where Lenovo to roll out Ubuntu Linux 20.04 LTS across nearly 30 ThinkPads, ThinkStations, which is very interesting. Which in this article it goes over first Fedora and now Ubuntu Linux. Lenovo is getting serious about the desktop app, Linux desktop, with support for almost 30 ThinkPads and ThinkStations. And here in the article, which is written by Stephen J. Vaughn, which states here, the Linux desktop may never be as popular as the Windows desktop, but more top-tier computer OEMs are now offering a broad assortment of Linux desktops. In the latest move, Lenovo, currently the top PC vendor in the world, according to Gartner, will roll out Ubuntu Linux 20.04 LTS out across 30 of Lenovo's ThinkPads and ThinkStations. Wowzers. Whew. That's a big one. While Lenovo start certifying most of its laptops and PC line on the top Linux distribution since June 2020, this is a much bigger step. Now, instead of simply acknowledging its equipment will be guaranteed to run Linux, Lenovo is selling Ubuntu Linux powered hardware to ordinary Joe and Jane users. So let me just go ahead and stop right here and mention about this too. This is a big deal. I think this will definitely introduce a lot of people to Linux for the first time that has never been exposed to Linux distros before too. And I will tell you, someone myself that have worked on Linux. In fact, when I installed my first operating system on my computer on my own, I decided to go full on Linux instead of Windows. And as for many reasons, I decided to go full on Linux because I just think when it comes to with Windows, I think not that it. I wouldn't say Windows is limited. I just think there are some open source aspects to Windows that you can definitely use up for sure. I just think it gives you it branches out into much more things that it'll offer for sure on Linux than you would with Mac or with Windows. So that's why I've used Ubuntu for about a year and a half. So that was the reasoning why I decided to go with a Linux Ubuntu. And I'm sure there's tons of operating system for Linux distribution that you guys can check out. And I know, like, for me, each of them does each different thing. For one, if you are in cybersecurity, then you will have to look into Fedora or Kali, for instance. Or if you are if you're just a casual average Joe, then Mint or Ubuntu will be for you, or Debian will be actually a good start, which I've understand for sure too. So Yeah, that's one of the things I would say to anybody that is looking to open source. See, I like it, and hopefully, if this rolls out, I think it's going to be a big seller, and that will bring in Lenovo, rolling in the dough into their pockets, which is awesome to see that for open source people. That's going to jump into and buy these computers. So that's amazing. However, let's see here. So continue on with the article, it says these machines, which will be available around the world starting September 2020 and rolling out in phases through 2021, are the list of computers that are going to be released, such as the ThinkPad and the ThinkStations, which my guess is that's for work. So that's something right there that anyone can check out on the list of Lenovo computers, which I will have the link down below on zdnet.com, so you guys can check out which ones are going to be available. But definitely, I like this and I support this. So if anything else, I'd love to try a Linux desktop machine, even though I know how to install one on my own. But it'd be pretty cool, absolutely, too. So let's get on with the next news, which I wanted to get on and what I've missed from last week. So from last week's story, I want to just go ahead and bring up a topic that which was big last week, which had to do with the ban of TikTok and WeChat here in the United States. So this was actually very interesting that, for one, that the U.S., this is the first time the U.S. has banned an application in the United States. So stuff like applications like TikTok and WeChat. So I would tell you a bit of history about the two and the history behind it, just to give you a quick summarization of what these two apps are, what they do. So one, TikTok is to use, like, it's like a fun app to use for comedical or just for dance videos. What I've understand with TikTok here, I'm saying TikToks, excuse me, and that's what the purpose of TikTok is all about. And so why the United States did the ban of TikTok was because it was pretty much compromising the data of U.S. citizens, right? And so that's why the United States did it. And then with WeChat, and just to give you a brief thing, what WeChat is, and for those that don't know, WeChat is a messenger that's been created by China, and which both these applications are Chinese-made applications. And why the United States has done it, because they say that this is compromising the data of users. And in fact, I have a article up on the Business Insider which says it right here, which says Chevron has ordered staff worldwide to delete WeChat off their work phones, despite President Donald Trump's ban on the app being blocked by a federal court. And Chevron described WeChat, owned by Chinese tech giant Tencent, as a non-compliant application. Staff would be disconnected from the firm's internal network unless they remove the social media and chat app from their devices, according to a staff email seen by Bloomberg News. So it's interesting. Chevron corporations are using this for their works. That's interesting. But here's the thing. What I actually have to say, that I'm against the ban, which I am against any ban by all means. I think it's supposed to be up to users to use it up to their own discretion on how people should use it. And to me, the libertarian side of me in the insight says that let's not ban it, but how about let's make up our own minds of how users can use these things too. And to me, here's actually a fun story about me. So actually, there was a time that when I actually used WeChat for a job interview, right? And I remember that actually had to use WeChat, which was mandatory in order for me to use it to be a English teacher for Chinese students, right? For young students. And this is what my take on this is that if you ban such an app like this, I mean, how are people are able to get on through chats? I mean, there's so many people are using WeChat, and so this is where I don't get it right there too, because what's the point of a ban if you have so many people doing stuff like that too? Look, for me personally, I wouldn't want to use these apps. Like, in fact, I never downloaded TikTok, nor I have ever have the desire to download TikTok or WeChat. Never again I will ever use WeChat, which to me now I actually know full on well that WeChat is pretty much used for on the Chinese. But again, I really have serious issues on bans because a lot of bans don't work. That's my take right here. And then plus anybody can go ahead and use go around through these laws and download WeChat in TikTok, because you still have American users that still has these applications like TikTok, for example. And I'm sure there's so many users are not going to remove it out of their Android or iOS devices, so that those people are going to keep it. Now, the good thing is that that if you still have TikTok on your phones and but haven't deleted it as of yet, you could still use it until the next update rolls out. Then, however, the problem with that is that if you're a U.S. Citizen and a U.S. user that has TikTok, you're not going to be able to use the app updates, and also that those old applications will not work properly like it was before. So to put it this way, frankly, it won't work like it used to. It just won't work after for so long. It's just going to be very buggy and not work properly too, because by the time TikTok has rolled all these updates too, it means that you're going to have to start looking into other alternatives other than TikTok. So yeah, so there's my problem with that too. In fact, you already have way too many places already that have pretty much cover these articles, such as the Slate here, which says WeChat has both connected families and torn them apart. Now let's go and take a look over here, which now to me, I don't read the Slate all the time, which I think my opinion, they're quite biased, but we're just definitely going to read up on it, which says the app which the Trump administration wants to ban has allowed the Chinese government to silence and punish critics, but cutting the U.S. off from it will not make anyone safer. Well, I have to. I'm that right there. That headline right there. I'll have to agree with that too. So let's continue reading, which says on Friday, September 25th at noon Eastern, the Free Speech Project will host an hour-long online event examining TikTok, WeChat, and the threatening bans implications for U.S./China relationship. For more information on RSVP, visit the New America website. Amid the countless headlines about the possible TikTok ban in the U.S., something far bigger has been overlooked. The parallel pending ban on WeChat, an app made by the Chinese company Tencent that has an estimated 1 billion users globally. Little known and and understood in the United States. It forms the backbone of online social life for people in China, and for those with ties to China, serving as a messaging app, social network, news site, and miniature app environment all in one. WeChat Pay is a critical piece of e-payment infrastructure, moving trillions of dollars annually around the world. While the app communicates seamlessly with Windex, the identificational Chinese language app oriented within mainland China. So let me just put it this way. I think this is, like I've said before, no ban. I don't agree with the ban at all, but I honestly say, come on, really. This is why I say that you should let people do what's right for these things. To me, I don't care about the app, but I think there's others out there that really does care about the app, and they should just use things onto their own devices. Now, however users are going to pass due to get pretty much bypass those bans. I think there's going to be so many ways that there's so many users are going to download TikTok and use it for their own gain. And there's no way a ban will help out at all too, because at this point I could definitely see a lot of these young users going pretty much bypassing these apps anyway. So there's no point into making a ban. let's put it this way. Just no, absolutely not. That's just a part I don't agree with 100%. And besides the point, look, I know that the Chinese government is not by any citizen innocent whatsoever. And in fact, I really despise what the Chinese government has done, of course. Pretty much they spy on their people all the time, but guess what? The United States does it too, so that doesn't make a freaking difference. Absolutely not. But anyways, that's just my 2 cents on that, or my 2 satoshis, I should call it too. But either way, I'd like to know what everybody thinks about this. If you think that this was a necessary ban, or this was very unnecessary too. And the fact that we're definitely going to see a marketplace, especially a marketplace where an underground market where people can go to different app stores, such as F-Droid, or a underground hidden black market. I think that will happen, because I'm sure there are certain applications that iOS and the Play Store won't allow. I can see that definitely happening too. And this is where I think a lot of these people don't ever talk about F-Droid. F-Droid should be something that a lot of users should be looking into. I think a lot of developers should be looking into as well. And if you want to publish your apps, look into F-Droid. This is very, very big right now. And in fact, I have F-Droid installed on my phone, so that way you can get past the draconian restrictions coming from Google. Google and iOS. It's so, gosh, it's amazing how there's so many people I've never heard of F-Droid. And to me, I would, even though Android is not any better, I would definitely use another operating system or get away from the iOS even ecosystem as much as universally possible. I'm just saying, it's not, to me, I don't find it as the best, but I think there are always going to be other solutions to anything else too. So that's what I'll say. But furthermore too, all your points, all your comments down below is very, very important. So if you like the show, thanks for taking a listen. If you'd like to hear more about it too, that would be great. Even though I have rambled for quite too long, and this is something I never ever usually talk topics like this. I had definitely had to bring up these topics and let you guys know in the light and see what you guys have to say, what you have to say, and what you think about these things. Furthermore, you guys have a great rest of the weekend, and talk to you more soon. On to the next episode.